Welcome to the Swine Time podcast here at Pipestone. I'm your host, Spencer Wayne. I am one of the practicing veterinarians here at Pipestone. I'm one of the owners of Pipestone Holdings. And besides working with farmers, the cool thing that they let me do a couple times a month is to host this podcast. And I get to interview interesting people. Sometimes they're employees of the company, sometimes they're outside our company. And in this case, it's kind of a, what are you? Because you will be part of our company very soon.
A future employee?
Future employee in a couple months.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yep.
My guest is Carly Bates. She is a soon-to-be graduate from Iowa State College of Veterinary Medicine. She'll join our group as one of our practicing veterinarians. But I'm not here to talk to her about vet school in particular, but just about young people entering agriculture, in particular the swine industry. So I'll stop for a second here. And Carly, if you would, can you give us a little background about you, who you are, where you grew up, why you chose this route, why you came here, why you wanted to work in the pig industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. So as Spencer said, I'm Carly Bates. I'm originally from Muscatine, Iowa, so eastern Iowa. I grew up on a small family hobby farm. We actually had some Hereford cattle, no pigs at all. And I went to Iowa State knowing that I wanted to do something in the agricultural industry, not exactly knowing what. Went there for undergrad and then went into vet school. Still there in vet school. I will graduate in May. And during my 8 years there, I really fell in love with the pork industry or the swine industry. There's kind of a multitude of different things that led me down that path. But definitely having the background of a small family farm helped me to get to the path that I am today, and going to be working for Pipestone soon. So that's just a little bit of a background about me.
Okay. So Iowa State for undergrad, and I'm guessing College of Ag?
Yes. Animal science major.
Animal science major. Okay. Within that college, there's animal science. There's all different kind of ag degrees that you can get. I'm comparing it to my own background at St. Paul, where we had ag business, ag marketing, or animal science is one, plant science. What were the other majors that a lot of the young people that you were friends with or classmates with would choose that are kind of setting young people up for a future in agriculture? Maybe that would be directed towards the swine industry. Besides animal science, was there anything else that a student would study that goes to swine production later?
Yeah, I think a big one that I can think of specifically at Iowa State would just be like ag business. And I think that's one that, it leads you to the agricultural industry, but then once you're there, it opens multiple doors for people, because I know people that have taken, the sales route with that, or they've gone into pork production, been a field manager, things like that. So I would say ag business or ag sales is one of those are the two big majors that definitely, I don't think people understand how many opportunities there is within, with getting that major or within that field.
Okay. So if you started as an animal science student between day one undergrad to just graduating here in a couple months, when did you start saying, I want to work with pigs? When did that happen?
Yeah, so actually that's kind of funny. I didn't think it was going to be pigs. And it was the summer in between my sophomore and my junior year of undergrad. And I was like, I want to be home for the summer. I want to be close to home. And I was just having a very hard time finding an internship that fit what I wanted to do within the agricultural industry that was close to home. And I ended up coming across one that was pig production. So it was working in a sow farm day in, day out for the summer. And I was like, well, it's close to home. I get to live at home, but I don't know if this is what I want to do, but it'll pay me for the summer. So that'll work.
How'd you find that?
So it was at the Iowa State Career Fair.
Okay. Yep. So there was a listing, there's jobs posted there, and this happened to be one that was close to home?
Yep. So it happened to be close to home, and I left that summer, and I pretty much knew from then on I wanted to do something within the swine industry or with pork production. I never in a million years honestly thought that that's where it would lead me. Just that one summer, like I said, I just wanted to be close to home, and it just happened to be close to home. Found it at the career fair, figured it would pay the bills for the summer, and then one thing led to another, and I just kind of figured out that was where I wanted to be.
Okay, so let's think of the alternatives. Did you start out as an animal science major right
Yes.
away? Okay,
Yep.
so you knew you wanted to work with livestock agriculture, just defined by that. So you think, oh, dairy cattle, beef, other minor species, pigs. Why? What was attractive about pigs where you said, this is cool, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think one big thing for me, especially at that age, looking back now, was the amount of not necessarily research opportunities, but just the advancements within the pork industry that we have. And there is a lot of opportunities for young people to be involved within those research studies or the advancements that they make within the pork industry, whether that be, working on a research project or being involved with different things that are going to advance the pork industry, but also the agricultural industry. I think for me, the thing that I saw was in the swine industry, you can see it start to finish. I mean, like literally, you go on a sow farm and you see those babies being born. However many months later, 6.5 months later, you can see them grow. And I think that's the other thing is in other industries, you don't get to fully see or like encompass the start to finish. And I think the start to finish, being able to see what you started or what you implemented or what you did and see it in such a short turnaround is something that is probably my favorite part about the swine industry.
Yeah. It's more easy to see that.
Yeah.
If you work at a sow farm and you only see iso-wean pigs going out, you're a little limited, but you're right, though. It's easier to see the whole process within the industry in most jobs.
Yeah, and it never hurts to cuddle a baby pig that's still sleeping here or there. That's a good part.
When they smell good. So if you start in animal science and you say, oh, I'm interested in swine, let's get to that point. Then the next question is you start thinking, well, where am I going to work at some point? And then that kind of leads into what internships you get, and you would gravitate towards places you'd like to maybe work. But, how do students then start peeling apart where they want to go within that? The vet school or to sales of some kind for a swine-related allied industry that's coming in to support pig production or whatever. I think of the internships I had. I worked on a farm in Denmark for 6 months as part of an ag exchange program. I worked at a company, I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was selling low-temperature dried herring meal from the North Atlantic. It was a pig feed ingredient for nursery diets. And I almost took an internship with IBP to work in a slaughter plant. I just knew I like to be involved in pig production. I knew the same things. Like, I want to be involved in pigs.
Yeah.
But that was my path. How do students today figure that out, where they want to go on the internships or what company they want to work with? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it can start from classes that you choose to take. In undergrad, some different electives. There's some swine electives or beef electives, and I think that can help a lot of people kind of drive them to know more of what they may want to do. A big thing for me was when professors or people at the university or even back to the high school level, when people say, let me know if you need anything or like if you need any advice or anything. When people say that, they mean it. So I think one thing for me is like asking the questions and I just like getting a better understanding of everything that is out there because there's a million different options that you can go within the agricultural industry.
Yeah. You're bringing up something very interesting as a concept. So if there's a young person listening to this, and I'm thinking of the advice I would give my daughter, my oldest daughter is a sophomore studying business at UND and nothing related to agriculture. But she's looking at job opportunities for summer internships and what she wants to do. And she said, well, there's a bulletin boards of some kind, electronic bulletin board showing job opportunities. I said, yeah, that's fine. But there's nothing in my mind better than get to know people, get to know your professors, people that are connected to other people, because you will go have a short conversation with somebody just to learn or to get to know them. And out of that, you will find the opportunity of, hey, what's your name? Give me your name and number because I got a friend of mine that's working in this company and they're thinking about this or they're looking for this type of person. And that job is not on the electronic bulletin board. It's just a word of mouth thing. And those are the best jobs.
Yeah.
So get connected would be, if I'm wrapping up my own advice here, get connected. Is that something that you have seen or how have you found some of these opportunities coming available? Is it always on an electronic bulletin board or is it people?
Yeah, I mean, there are some that were on an electronic bulletin board or things like that. But I would say majority of the opportunities is just reaching out to people, and, one thing leads to another, one person leads to another person. The communication, like, never be afraid to send the email or make the phone call, or go seek someone out at a career fair, or different things like that, to talk to them. Even just to, if you hand your resume to someone, you don't know whose hands it will then end up in. It could end you up in an internship or a job. So definitely just the communication, and being able to talk to people and, I guess, get more information. Like I said, one thing leads to another, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, a big part of success is just showing up. And if you just show up for the communication piece, awesome. And then there's follow-ups, I met this person, I followed up. I think other advice for young people is kind of what I'm driving to. If you were a young person, I just said it, like, I would network, and then I would say, you be good at communication. Just keep talking. The worst thing in the world is that would happen from that is that they think you're annoying, but that's unlikely to happen. I think people are just interested to know that, there's a young person looking for a job, put him on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the greatest takeaways that I took from undergrad at Iowa State is we had a professor, and her motto was, the world is ran by those who show up. And I think in this instance, it can also be, the world is ran by those who communicate and are willing to reach out, willing to make themselves better, and figure out what the opportunities are out there for them once they kind of know the path that they want to go in. So I just think the world is ran by those who show up and communicate.
Okay. So now I'm thinking of advice for if there's a farm out there or a company that's listening and saying, we're trying to hire young people. What makes an attractive destination? You're getting ready to be done with undergrad in an animal science degree, or vet school in this case. How did you look at that? Were we your only option? I hope that we were the best option, but how did you pick where you wanted to go, and how do young people look at that? What's attractive to somebody your age as an employer that would offer and say, hey, come work here because da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
I think for me personally, and it's got a little bit to do with going to vet school, but I think whether you were coming out of undergrad or even coming right out of high school, whatever it may be, if you wanted to work in the agricultural industry, I think a lot of the things that young people look for is mentorship. They want to know that they're not going to be kind of just thrown to the wind. I think a lot of young people want to know that they will have the support, and they will be able to, fall back on someone if they need some more advice. And I think that's kind of with a little bit of potentially the older generation. A lot of people are just thrown into a job. But I think just the way us younger people kind of work in our brains is mentorship is a huge thing. We want to be able to feel confident in what we're doing so that we can give the best to our company or our place of employment. So I would say mentorship is a big one. I would say work-life balance. I know that that's thrown around all of the time. I know we kind of had a conversation before this about that, but I think that's something that myself, as well as a lot of young people, also value. As we think about growing up and starting families and things like that, I think that is something that people definitely look for as well.
Yeah. The joke, it's not just between you and me, it's kind of everybody my age to everybody that's younger is the term work-life balance is like just a coded way to say, I don't want to work too hard.
Yeah.
Which isn't true. And it's a real thing. And my advice to myself would be, how are you living and how are you presenting that to a young person coming into this? Because you should, as an older person, also have figured that balance out as well.
Right.
So I think we beat that one up enough. You got any advice you'd give another person coming behind you?
Advice that I would give to someone that was coming behind me, to make yourself available to reach out to other people. I think unfortunately, I do think with the younger generation, it is very easy to hide behind a screen. Just the way that it is, that's how we grew up. So I think it's very easy to send an email or send a text. I guess some advice that I would have is don't be afraid to go show your face. Don't be afraid to make the phone call. Do things that make you kind of feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's easy to send a text.
Yeah.
The phone call may not be the most comfortable thing for younger people, but make that phone call or show your face at a career fair. Mm-hmm. Do the things that might push your boundaries a little bit more. And I think that is how, personally, I feel like I've tried to do at least. And I think that is something that we could definitely improve on more.
Okay.
Especially in the agricultural industry. I think and in the pork industry, I think it's very important to be able to show your face, make the phone calls, and just be able to communicate and do things that push your boundaries a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice for a student or a young vet or an older vet or wherever. Mm-hmm. So what I heard from you, so I'm going to summarize a few things in here. One is, as a young person, earlier we talked quite a bit about networking. Don't be afraid to talk to people and meet. And then you just said also, don't be afraid to do uncomfortable things. In fact, do uncomfortable things. That's there's so many cliche sayings around that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Press yourself.
Yep.
So that's the advice to the young people for hiring parties, for the vet clinic that's trying to hire, for the ag company that's trying to hire, for the farm that's trying to hire. Then I think a key thing you said earlier was mentorship.
Yeah.
You know, things are important, money, time off, whatever, all these things are important. But having somebody that invests themselves in you, I think I've heard you say that a few times.
Yes.
Mentorship is important.
Yep.
So those were lessons I heard for both somebody looking for a young person to work there or for a young person looking for a place to work.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I would agree. Those are some of the main points. Yeah.
Okay. Was there something else that's attractive? There could be attractive to the pig industry. You said advancement. You mentioned something like the opportunity for advancement within the company.
And actually people kind of ask me this all the time because I didn't come from a heavy swine background at all. So people are like, what drew you to pigs? And I think the swine industry in a whole, it's a small community. It doesn't feel like that when you're looking from the outside in, but when you are in the swine industry, it is truly a small community. Kind of everybody knows everybody. And some people may not like that about the swine industry, but for me personally, that's what I love about it. I love being able to kind of get to know everybody that does what you do. And I really enjoy just being able to work with people, whether they're in the same company as you, but everybody's working towards the same goal. Mm-hmm. And it is just such a close community that even if you work for a competitor, even if you work for someone different, and in the end, we're all working toward the same goal. So I think, there's many, many people that raise cattle, or if we bring it back to the vet side, there's a lot of people that work with cattle day in, day out. But I don't think there is not as many people that work with pigs. So I think it is just a close community of people on the vet side, on the production side, whatever it may be. And that to me is what I really love about the swine industry, is that it feels like family. Yeah. I don't know if that might not appeal to some people, but to me that is something that really appeals to me.
Yeah. And then I still come back to, I think the pig industry has a good angle on, it's designed to reward virtue and excellence, more maybe than other ag industries, which are maybe more lifestyle or culturally oriented. This is performance. Performance is typically rewarded in the pig industry. I'd say. Anyway, that's my own bent on it. But I want to flip the question around. What's the negatives of the pig industry? If you said, I'm a young student, I don't want to work with pigs, why? I can think of one big reason why, but why would you not want to work with pigs? Are there some negatives?
Well, I can think of like what some of my classmates would say, and they're like, well, I don't want to take 12 showers a day.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm like, okay, makes sense. Yeah, I guess some people wouldn't want to do that, but I guess negatives on it as to why people wouldn't. There's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And I think
for your job specifically,
yeah,
there will be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of the negatives.
I know
myself,
the negatives are really, I can think of all the positives, but the negatives don't come to mind as easy.
Yeah, that's great. Can't think of any.
Yeah,
negatives.
there's just not that many at all.
All right. Well, Carly, we have burnt up a good 25 minutes of our lives and our listeners' lives, but it was a good conversation. I think you shared a lot of things that would be insightful for students and for those that will be looking to hire students. I think.
Hopefully.
And I come back to the big thing I heard today from you was employers provide mentorship. Young people, look for opportunities on that and communicate, just network, because you will find something that's not on any list or website
Yeah.
by talking to people who are connected to other people.
And on the flip side of that, like, people talk.
Yeah.
So as a young person, don't say negative things, don't burn bridges don't burn bridges at all, but especially while you're young, because people talk, people know each other, in the ag industry or in the swine industry, because it is such a small, tight-knit group of people.
All right, Carly, thanks for being here. I appreciate your time, and look forward to you starting full-time with us in a couple of months. And good luck finishing up school. Oh, congratulations, you passed your boards.
Yes, I did.
You are open for the runway to take off
at
the airport. You're going.
Very exciting.
Good deal.
Thanks. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thanks, Carly. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into this episode of the Swine Time Podcast, and look forward to having you again with us. The Swine Time Podcast was created for the pork industry and individual pork producers around the country. Hosted by me, Dr. Spencer Wayne with Pipestone Veterinary Services, the podcast contains pork industry news, advancements in animal care, and how to enhance your productivity. Find the Swine Time Podcast at www.pipestone.com or on your favorite listening platform.